Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the best time to jump into Phantasy Star Online 2, which, surprise, is right now. Throughout the last year, I've steadily logged hours in PSO2, and it hasn't lost its luster. I would say I like it more now than when I started, and that's saying something considering I have like 1,000 hours on a single character, let alone the game in general. I mean, let me look at my Steam here real quick. Yeah, I'm sitting at 1,100 hours on Steam, and this game wasn't always on Steam. It started off on Xbox, later moved to Microsoft Store, and then later moved to Steam. And so with the final Steam version, it's 1,100 hours, which can tell you, based on how many hours I play Destiny, how much of the day I am committing to PSO2. This game is fantastic. I'll explain a lot of reasons why, but you're probably interested most on why to join now as opposed to back then. Well, the short answer is that Phantasy Star Online 2 originally released in 2012 in Japan, ironically on July 4th, and in the year 2020, that is 8 years later, finally expanded to North America, where it got its own server. This North American server later became known as PSO2 Global as it expanded worldwide. And what made this server special is that it started from zero. It started back in the 2012 version of PSO2 and crammed 8 years worth of expansions and quality of life updates into 1 year of content. As you can imagine, this made it very difficult to keep up with the game, since every time you felt like you had a handle on things, a new batch of expansions overwhelmed you again and again and again. It's kind of an odd complaint to have, having too much content, but that's really how it felt. It was impossible to finalize your character build because every time you got close to it, a new batch of things that added complexity to the game were added. And so now that's not the case because we're on the final update of the Japan version. So we're about to reach gear parity with Japan. And this is the reason that I recommend getting into PSO2 right now. Now, for those of you who don't know what PSO2 is, let me quickly explain. Phantasy Star Online goes all the way back to the early 2000s on the Dreamcast as one of the first console MMOs. Nowadays, it's an action RPG MMO with space fantasy elements, as you can expect from the name. As far as gameplay goes, there are 13 distinct classes to choose from, so inevitably you'll find something that strikes your fancy. People play Phantasy Star Online 2 for a variety of reasons, let it be the fashion or the social aspect, but what keeps me coming back is the depth of combat, where I can try my hardest in an activity and still get clapped to this day, a year later of actively trying. So if you're on the hunt for aspirational content that you can sink your teeth into and feel engaged, this game has it. But if you're also the kind of player who likes to explore the social aspects of the game, there's no harm in cranking down the difficulty of a given activity. So at this point in the vid, you might have heard about it, you might be curious, what is Phantasy Star Online New Genesis? Well, it's the sequel of Phantasy Star Online 2 that is launching alongside Phantasy Star Online 2. So you play both games at the same time, your character is tied between both of these games, and you share cosmetics and your character data. The new stuff that New Genesis brings to the table is open field activities, whereas PSO2 is limited to a specific area. And New Genesis also brings with it a host of graphical updates that both versions of the game get to enjoy. Right now in the background, I'm showing you a New Genesis style video, but most of the gameplay I've showed you so far in this video has been the old graphics. So if graphics are what's holding you back from trying PSO2, maybe wait for Global to get that graphical update and give it a try. So after hearing all this, your first thought might be, well, why would I play PSO2 if I'm going to mainly play New Genesis? Why wouldn't I just wait for New Genesis to launch? And that's a good question. The answer is, well, what if you want your character to look a specific way, or you want some old cosmetic? Well, then the answer would be play PSO2 because it's on its own right a good game anyway, and you get cosmetics for New Genesis, and you familiarize yourself with the systems and world of Phantasy Star Online 2 early. So if you were to start playing PSO2 right now, fresh start, here's what you could expect. Number one, there is a host of campaigns going on that make it very easy to level up and get geared to access endgame activities, and the rewards that drop from these endgame activities is the highest gear strength that is also the highest gear strength in Japan. So this means that if you spend time to flesh out a build, you won't get blindsided by a host of updates that bring forth some new complexity. Now for content, what is being added is an urgent quest called TPD, the Primordial. And I'm showing footage in the background right now of the first time doing Primordial in Japan, and it's a pretty interesting boss fight. I don't want to spoil it, but you're going to have some fun with this. This is one of my favorites. If anything I've said in this video so far sounds compelling and you'd like to try out PSO2, I happen to have a quick start guide that is very close to up to date, though I probably need to add an addendum or two in a future video. But yeah, check that out in the video description below, as well as a couple other helpful Phantasy Star links, the Twitter, the main website where you can check campaigns, etc., some guides. Overall, this last year of Phantasy Star Online 2 Global has been one of the greatest years in gaming for me ever. This is seriously an all-time favorite game for me, and I'm looking forward to playing it even more in the future and alongside New Genesis. Hope you guys appreciated the video. I will see you in the next one.